And so when it came to vulnerability to me, it was just an extension of honesty. And I get that if you are, let's say, raised, for example, in like a toxic masculine kind of upbringing where you are taught like, no, men don't cry and men don't share their feelings unless it's anger, then I respect that this is being vulnerable for you is going to be a reach. It's going to be a stretch. When you are always trying to project an image of yourself that you think the world expects, that takes a lot of work. It takes bandwidth. It takes energy.
Another wonderful array of things that you've covered there and so many lessons. And I want people to listen to this episode multiple times because there's so many nuggets of gold that Corey is sharing in these sections that he's going through. Treating people like they matter, right? So if you treat people like they matter, you know what? They will matter. They'll do work that matters. Knowing your values and living your values. And you spoke about vulnerability. I'd love to dig a little bit deeper into that. What does vulnerability mean to you, Corey?
So I think of vulnerability a little bit differently, probably than some. Before vulnerability was such an important thing to me, honesty was. I was just raised in a home and with this understanding that honesty was everything. And you told the truth, even if it was hard, even if it wasn't fun, even if it wasn't comfortable. And I loved that because understanding the importance of trust in relationships was everything. Recognizing that if I could trust you and I didn't have to wonder if you were being honest with me, our relationship could flourish. But if I was doubting it, I'm always going to wonder. And then there's always going to be a block between us. And so when it came to vulnerability to me, it was just an extension of honesty. This is what I'm dealing with. This is how I'm feeling. This is what I'm struggling with. I know that people feel like vulnerability might be a sign of weakness, right? Well, if I project strength, then you're going to think I'm strong. But if I let you know the truth that I'm actually having a hard time with this right now, or I don't have it figured out, or I'm scared, then you might think less of me. And it's the complete opposite of that. Because again, by being real with people, by being honest with people, we build trust. That's just a fundamental principle. So being real and honest about the human experience, I mean, that's what vulnerability is to me. It's just, here's my experience as a human being. Here's what I'm going through. Here's what I've been through. Here's what I've learned. There's no stigma. There's no judgment. It's not good. It's not bad. It just is. It just is. And every single person goes through life like we're all just trying to figure it out, right? We're all trying to do the best we can with what we've got. We pretend that that's not the case. We pretend like, no, I've got it figured out. But we're really only doing that because the guy beside us is acting like that way too. And we feel like, well, I got to measure up to him. I got to keep up with him. And if we could just let down the guard a little bit and just be honest and real with each other, which is what everybody's craving in this world, we not only are we going to build more trusting and deeper and more meaningful relationships, but we have the potential to change cultures, societies, the world by just breaking down that wall a little bit. And I get that if you are, let's say, raised, for example, in like a toxic masculine kind of upbringing where you are taught like, no, men don't cry and men don't share their feelings unless it's anger, then I respect that this is being vulnerable for you is going to be a reach. It's going to be a stretch.
Yeah.
You can do it. You can absolutely do it, but start small. Just start really small. And like with anything, like with any habit, with any new practice, just start really, really small. And for the rest of us who've had a little more experience with it, lean into it. And again, I feel like vulnerability is one of those things where you just lead by example. But the world needs it so very badly. And just be honest with each other.
Two things popped into my head. The first one I think you've covered well, which is when you are vulnerable and when you show up as your authentic self, it gives other people the license that they can do it too. And that they will respect you, they will appreciate it, and then they can also bring their own authentic self, which is great for their mental health and their mental fitness if they're able to show up at work every day to be themselves instead of being some version of themselves that they think the world expects, right?
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Not to mention how much work that is, by the way.
Yeah.
When you are always trying to project an image of yourself that you think the world expects, that takes a lot of work. It takes bandwidth, it takes energy. And if you're able to let that go and just be real and just be authentic, being who you really are doesn't take effort. It's because it's just who you really are. You breathe, you eat, you show up this way. And when it takes less effort, you have more energy, more bandwidth to put into what you want to put it into. So while learning to be vulnerable might be uncomfortable and it might take some work, kind of like any new skill or new habit, once you kind of get the hang of it and you lean into it, you realize that it's a lot easier going through life being honest than it is trying to like tell a little white lie here and a little lie there kind of thing. That takes a lot of work.
I've learned this one the hard way, Corey. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to be thinking every day, what are people expecting of me right now? And trying to play the role that people are expecting you to play. That's exhausting. Turning up yourself is a joy, and it's just, oh wow, I am enough and I can just be myself. That's a powerful thing, but it does take time. So be patient with yourself when you're doing this, but take the first step is what I'm hearing from Corey there.
Yeah.
Even if it's a small one.